If someone had told me 2 years ago that my life, the marriage I thought was built on love and trust, would collapse like a house of cards, I would have laughed in their face. But here I am, sitting in the wreckage of what used to be my happily ever after, telling you the story of how the woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, pretended to love me, while hiding a secret that nearly destroyed me. My name is Daniel, and this is the story of my wife, Emily. I met Emily 4 years ago. She was this vibrant, kind-hearted woman who had a way of making even the dullest days feel brighter. I remember the first time I saw her. She was laughing with a friend in a small cafe near my office. That laugh. It wasn't just a sound. It was a spark. I knew I had to talk to her. And when I finally gathered the courage, she welcomed me with a smile that made me believe in fate. From the beginning, Emily was everything I thought I wanted. She was caring, attentive, and she looked at me like I was the center of her world. Within a year, we were married. And those early days of marriage felt like a dream come true. But dreams have a way of hiding nightmares behind them. It started small. I noticed Emily becoming distant, her attention slipping in moments when we used to connect effortlessly. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just stressed with work or tired. She was working as a project manager in a busy marketing firm, and long hours were common. But then came the late nights. She would say she was working overtime, yet when I'd call her, she wouldn't pick up right away. When she did, her tone was different, guarded, almost rehearsed. Still, I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. I told myself every marriage goes through ups and downs, that this was just a phase. But deep inside, a quiet unease began to grow. One night, as we sat across the dinner table, I asked gently, "Emily, are you okay? You seem distracted lately." She looked up from her plate, startled, then forced a smile. "I'm fine, Daniel. Just work stress. You know how it is." I nodded, though her eyes avoided mine. But it wasn't just work stress. I could feel it. A wife doesn't just stop laughing with her husband. A wife doesn't suddenly hide her phone, face it down on the table, or rush to the bathroom when a message comes in. Something was wrong. The hardest part was the way she still said she loved me. Every night, before bed, she would kiss me softly and whisper, "I love you, Daniel." And I wanted so desperately to believe her. I clung to those words like a lifeline, convincing myself that whatever I was imagining was just paranoia. But love, real love, doesn't come with secrets. The first real crack appeared one weekend. Emily told me she had to attend a work retreat, a weekend-long conference 2 hours out of town. "Do you want me to drive you there?" I asked, wanting to be helpful. Her eyes widened just a little before she quickly shook her head. No, it's fine. I'll be carpooling with a few colleagues." It seemed reasonable, but my gut twisted. That entire weekend, I barely heard from her. A few short texts, always vague, always delayed. When she came home on Sunday night, she looked radiant, glowing almost. Too happy for someone who had been stuck in conference halls all weekend. I tried to push the thoughts away, but then little details began slipping through the cracks. Like the unfamiliar perfume lingering faintly on her coat, or the way she suddenly started dressing differently, bolder, more confident. One evening, as she stepped out of the shower, humming a tune, I noticed a faint red mark on her neck. "Emily, what's that?" I asked, pointing gently. She glanced at the mirror, then laughed a little too quickly. "Oh, that. I must have scratched myself in my sleep." The explanation didn't sit right with me, but I let it go. Because what kind of husband accuses his wife of lying? Without proof? And yet, the more I tried to hold on, the more the doubts gnawed at me. I started noticing patterns. Nights she claimed she was working late were the same nights she came home smelling faintly of cologne. Not mine. When I asked about her colleagues, she grew defensive. "Why are you interrogating me? Don't you trust me?" The words cut deep, because trust was all I had left. But her defensiveness only fueled my suspicion. One night, I decided to test something. She told me she had an important late meeting and wouldn't be home until after 10. So, around 8:30, I drove to her office building, parking across the street. I waited and waited. By 9 o'clock, I saw her walk out, not alone, but with a man. Tall, well-dressed, and far too close to her. They laughed together as they walked toward the parking lot. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. But instead of confronting her then and there, I sat frozen, watching as she climbed into his car. She hadn't seen me, and I didn't follow them. Because in that moment, denial was easier than truth. That night, when she came home just after 11, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "The meeting ran long. Sorry, I'm late." I forced a smile, swallowing the storm inside me. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. Emily wasn't just distracted. She wasn't just stressed. She was pretending to love me, pretending that nothing had changed, pretending that her whispered, "I love you" meant the same thing it once did. But it didn't. Because now, every word from her lips felt like a lie. And the worst part, I still couldn't bring myself to confront her. I still hoped, somehow, against all logic, that I was wrong. That maybe, just maybe, she still loved me the way I loved her. But the truth has a way of breaking through, no matter how hard you try to bury it. And the cracks in my marriage were about to split wide open. That night, as Emily lay sleeping peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with questions. Who was that man? Why was she with him? And how long had she been lying to me? My heart ached with the weight of it all, and I knew sooner or later I was going to find out the truth. And when I finally did, it shattered me in ways I never thought possible. Sleep didn't come easy after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily walking beside that man, smiling in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. It ate at me. The questions, the doubts, the pain of pretending everything was fine when, deep inside, I knew it wasn't. But I didn't want to explode without proof. So I became careful, watchful. I started noticing the smallest details, her body language, her phone habits, even the way her tone shifted when she said my name. And the more I noticed, the more I realized Emily was slipping away from me. One morning, she was getting ready for work. She stood in front of the mirror, applying lipstick. Bright red, bolder than anything she used to wear. I leaned against the doorway, studying her. "That's new," I said gently. She glanced at me in the mirror. "Do you like it? It looks different." She smiled faintly, but it wasn't the kind of smile meant for me. It was distant, practiced. And in that moment, I hated myself for wondering if she was putting on that lipstick for someone else. The lies continued to build, wrapped neatly in excuses. Late meetings, sudden weekend work, unexpected emergencies that kept her out until midnight. But the phone, that was the biggest change. She used to leave it on the counter, face up, never caring if I glanced at it. But now, she kept it close at all times. Even when she showered, she carried it with her, setting it on the bathroom shelf like it was her lifeline. And every time a message buzzed, she'd tilt the screen away from me. It was like a dagger twisting deeper with every little secret she tried to hide. Finally, one evening, I couldn't hold it in anymore. We were sitting on the couch, the TV flickering with a movie neither of us was watching. "Emily," I said quietly. "Hmm?" She didn't look up. Are you happy with me?" Her head snapped up, eyes wide. "What? Of course I am. Why would you even ask that?" I swallowed hard. "Because you've been different. Distant. And I don't know if it's work or something else." Her expression hardened instantly. "So what? You think I don't love you anymore? That I'm lying to you?" Her voice rose, sharp and defensive. I raised my hands. "I didn't say that. I feel like I'm losing you, Emily. And I don't know why." She stared at me for a long moment, then turned away. "You're imagining things, Daniel. Stop overthinking everything." But I wasn't imagining it. And her reaction, so defensive, so angry, only deepened my suspicion. That night, she turned her back to me in bed, her body stiff, her breathing sharp. And I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the widening gulf between us. It wasn't just in my head. I knew it. A few days later, fate gave me the proof I was too afraid to seek. Emily had left her phone on the nightstand while she showered. For once, she didn't take it with her. I wasn't the type of man to snoop. I hated the idea of betraying her privacy. But something inside me, some desperate, gnawing instinct, told me to look. The phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen. From a man named Alex. My chest tightened as I read the words. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. The room spun. My hands trembled. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march into the bathroom and demand answers. But I didn't, because suddenly, everything clicked. The late nights, the retreats, the distant smiles, the perfume. It wasn't my imagination. It was betrayal. When Emily walked out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her, she saw me sitting on the edge of the bed, pale and frozen. "Daniel? Are you okay?" she asked, genuine concern flickering in her voice. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I realized. I didn't recognize my wife anymore, but I didn't confront her then. I slipped the phone back onto the nightstand, masking the storm inside me. Because I needed more. I needed to know how deep this betrayal ran. The next few days, I watched her carefully. Whenever she texted, her lips curved into a smile she hadn't given me in months. Whenever her phone rang, she slipped away into another room. And every time she whispered, "I love you," before bed, it felt like poison in my veins. I was living with a stranger who wore my wife's face. One Friday night, she told me she was going to another work dinner. This time, I followed her. She drove across town, dressed to perfection, and pulled into the parking lot of an upscale restaurant. I parked a few rows away, heart hammering in my chest. And then I saw him. The same man from her office building. Alex. Tall, confident, with that polished look of someone who knew exactly what he wanted. Emily stepped out of her car, and when he saw her, his face lit up. He leaned in, kissed her cheek, far too intimately for colleagues, and placed his hand on the small of her back as they walked inside together. My stomach twisted, my vision blurred with rage. But I didn't storm in. Not yet. I sat there in the darkness, gripping the steering wheel, trembling with betrayal and fury. And for the first time, I realized Emily hadn't just lied. She hadn't just been distant. She was living a double life. That night, when she came home smelling of wine and perfume, she crawled into bed beside me, whispering her familiar lie. "I love you, Daniel." And I whispered back, "I love you too." But in my heart, I knew those words had lost all meaning, because I had seen the truth with my own eyes. And sooner or later, I was going to confront her with it. But when I finally did, I discovered her betrayal was far worse than I ever imagined. Confrontation is a strange thing. You imagine it 1,000 different ways in your head. You picture yourself yelling, demanding answers, breaking things in a rage. But when the moment comes, it feels nothing like you expect. For me, it was quiet. Too quiet. I sat across from Emily one evening at the kitchen table. She had just come home late from work again. Her hair slightly messy, her cheeks flushed. I'd had enough. "Emily," I said, my voice low but steady. She looked up from her plate. I know about Alex." The fork slipped from her hand, clattering against the plate. For a split second, her face was naked with shock. But then, just as quickly, she smoothed it over with a practiced calm. I don't know what you're talking about." But I could see it in her eyes. The truth. The panic. "I followed you, Emily," I continued, my chest heavy with pain. "I saw you at the restaurant with him. I've read the messages. Don't lie to me anymore." Her lips parted, but no words came. The silence stretched between us like a blade. Finally, she whispered, "Daniel." My heart throbbed. "Why? Why would you do this to us?" "To me?" Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment, I thought she'd break down and confess everything. But instead, she hardened. "You've been spying on me," she snapped. Her words hit me like a slap. "Spying on you? Emily, you've been lying to me for months. You've been cheating on me." Her jaw tightened. She stood from the table, arms crossed. "I don't owe you an explanation when you don't even respect my privacy." That was it, the turning point. The moment I realized she wasn't sorry. Not even a little. The argument spiraled. I begged her to just be honest, to tell me what Alex meant to her. At first, she denied everything. Then, when I pressed harder, she cracked. "Fine," she shouted, tears streaking her face. "Yes, I've been seeing him. But you don't understand, Daniel. You stopped being the man I married. You stopped making me feel alive." Her words pierced deeper than any knife. Stopped being the man she married. I worked myself to the bone providing for us. I gave her loyalty, stability, love. And somehow, in her eyes, that wasn't enough. You could have talked to me, I said, my voice trembling. You could have told me how you felt. But instead, you chose him. She turned away, sobbing quietly. And in that moment, my heart broke in a way I didn't think was possible. The days after the confrontation were unbearable. We lived under the same roof, but it was like sharing space with a ghost. Emily avoided me. She buried herself in her phone, in her excuses, in silence. And me? I was left drowning in questions I couldn't silence. Did she ever love me at all? Or had it all been a performance? From the very beginning. Then came the night that destroyed whatever hope I had left. I came home earlier than usual. Emily wasn't there. Her car was gone. But something told me, something deep, primal, to wait. So I did. I sat in the dark living room, the clock ticking louder with every passing minute. At 11:30, the front door opened. Emily slipped inside, tiptoeing as if she didn't want to wake me. She froze when she saw me sitting there. "Daniel," she gasped, clutching her purse. "You scared me. Where were you?" I asked, my voice flat. She hesitated. "Too long." "Work," she said finally. I let out a bitter laugh. "Work doesn't kiss you goodnight the way Alex does." Her face drained of color. "Stop lying to me," I whispered. "Just stop." And then something inside her snapped. She dropped the pretense, the act, the fake tears. Her shoulders straightened, her eyes cold. "You want the truth?" she said, her voice sharp as glass. "Fine. I love him, Daniel, not you. I haven't loved you for a long time." The words ripped through me, shattering the fragile hope I'd been clinging to. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "You love him?" I managed to choke out. She nodded slowly. "He makes me feel alive. He gives me what you can't, what you'll never be able to give me." And just like that, every memory we shared, every kiss, every laugh, every whispered promise turned to ash. I stumbled out of the room, my chest burning. In the quiet of our bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed, my head in my hands. Was it all fake? Had she been pretending from the very beginning? Her laugh, her touch, her vows at the altar. Were they just lies crafted to keep me blind while she waited for something better to come along? The betrayal wasn't just in her actions. It was in the realization that the woman I thought I knew never really existed. She had been a stranger all along. That night, I didn't sleep beside her. I couldn't. I lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our marriage, searching for signs I had missed. And for the first time, anger began to replace the pain. Not just at her, but at myself, for being blind, for believing her lies, for loving someone who was only pretending to love me. The next morning, Emily acted as if nothing had happened. She made coffee. She hummed softly. She even asked me how I slept. The audacity of it nearly made me laugh. But I didn't laugh. I didn't answer, because something inside me had changed. I wasn't going to be her fool anymore. If she thought she could betray me, humiliate me, and walk away unscathed, she was wrong. Because from that moment on, I knew this wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about revenge. Revenge. It's not something I ever thought I'd consider. I used to believe I was above it, that love, forgiveness, and dignity were stronger than anger. But betrayal changes you. It cracks something deep inside, and once it's broken, you're never the same. Emily thought she could keep pretending. She thought I would stay silent, swallow the pain, and let her live this double life. But she underestimated me. The first thing I did was stop showing her my pain. No more pleading. No more desperate questions. No more long stares at the ceiling, wondering what I did wrong. Instead, I smiled. I laughed. I acted as though I didn't care. And that shift, it unsettled her. One morning, she asked, "Are you okay? You've been different lately." I shrugged, sipping my coffee. "I'm fine. Actually, I've never felt better." The flicker of unease in her eyes told me everything. Because for the first time, I wasn't playing the role of the broken husband. I was the man who had a plan. I started gathering information. Quietly, Carefully, I checked our shared bank statements. I noticed strange charges, luxury dinners, hotel bookings, expenses that didn't match her story. I kept track of her work trips. They lined up perfectly with those transactions. And then, one afternoon, I made the boldest move yet. I followed her again. This time, instead of hiding in the car, I walked right into the same hotel she claimed was for business. The receptionist glanced at me. "Good evening, sir." Checking in, I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Actually, I'm looking for my wife, Emily Carter. She's supposed to be here for a conference." The receptionist hesitated, then said carefully, "Yes, she checked in earlier with a guest." My stomach clenched, but I kept my face neutral. "Room number?" "I'm afraid I can't give out that information." But I didn't need it, because now I had proof, not just suspicions, not just texts. Proof. I could have confronted her right then, stormed into that hotel room, dragged her out, and exposed her lies in the most humiliating way possible. But no, that would have been too easy for her. I wanted her to feel what I felt, helpless, blindsided, broken. And so, I kept my silence. At home, I began preparing. I contacted a lawyer quietly. I learned my rights, what I could do, and how I could protect myself. We had built a life together, joint accounts, shared property, investments. And I wasn't about to let her waltz off into the sunset with Alex while leaving me in ruins. The lawyer gave me advice I'll never forget. Don't confront her yet. Let her dig her hole deeper. The more evidence you have, the stronger you'll stand. So I waited. And while I waited, I began crafting a mask. To Emily, I was the same husband as always, maybe even better. I cooked dinner. I brought her flowers. I laughed at her jokes. But behind that mask, I was documenting everything. Bank statements, texts, her suspicious late-night returns. Every lie she told me became another brick in the wall I was building against her. But here's the thing about pretending. You can only keep up the act for so long before it starts to crumble. One evening, as we sat at the dinner table, Emily's phone buzzed. She reached for it quickly, but I was faster. I snatched it up before she could react. "Daniel, give me my phone," she snapped, lunging across the table. But I held it high, scrolling through the notifications. And there it was. A preview of a message from Alex. "I can't wait until you're mine completely. Just leave him already." The air between us turned electric with tension. I slowly set the phone down, staring at her. "So you're planning to leave me for him?" Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. And in that silence, I knew. It wasn't just an affair. She was planning to end our marriage, to walk away with him. Something inside me snapped that night, but not in the way she expected. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Instead, I smiled. "Good," I said quietly, "because it'll make things easier for me." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" I stood from the table, my voice calm, almost cold. "You'll see." That night, as she slept, I lay awake, formulating my next move. She thought she held all the cards, that I was weak, desperate, broken. But she had no idea what I was capable of when pushed this far. If she wanted to leave me for Alex, fine. But I would make sure she paid a price she'd never forget. And fate, it seemed, handed me the perfect opportunity. 2 days later, Emily announced she was going away for another work trip. I kissed her cheek and wished her well. But as soon as she left, I followed. This time, I wasn't just going to watch from the shadows. I was going to expose her. I trailed her car to the city outskirts, where she pulled into a boutique hotel. I waited in the parking lot, heart pounding, watching as Alex's car pulled up beside hers. He stepped out, grinning, and kissed her passionately before they walked inside together. My chest burned with rage, but also with grim satisfaction, because I had it all. Photos. Evidence. Enough to destroy her lies completely. But what I didn't realize that night was that Emily's betrayal went deeper than just sneaking around in hotel rooms. Alex wasn't just her lover. He was after something more. And soon, I would discover that their affair wasn't just about love or lust. It was about betrayal on a level that went far beyond my marriage. And when I finally uncovered their true plan, it wasn't just my heart they were trying to destroy. They say betrayal is like a poison. It doesn't just wound you, it spreads, it infects everything you thought was pure. And by the time I uncovered the full truth about Emily and Alex, the poison had touched every part of my life. Because this wasn't just an affair, it was a scheme. It started with the documents I found. Emily had left her laptop open one night while she showered. Normally, she was careful, passwords, locked screens, quick closes. But this time, she slipped. And what I saw nearly knocked the breath out of me. An email chain between her and Alex. Not about love, not about passion, but about money. My money. They weren't just sneaking around, they were planning to drain me dry. The emails revealed everything. Emily had been slowly shifting funds from our joint accounts. Small amounts at first, hidden under everyday expenses. But over time, it had grown into tens of thousands of dollars. And Alex, he wasn't just some random fling from her office. He was in on it. He had convinced her that if she left me and took what she could, they'd have enough to start fresh somewhere else. I sat there, staring at the screen, my hands trembling with fury. It wasn't just my heart she betrayed. It was my trust, my future, my stability. She wanted to ruin me completely. I had two choices: confront her immediately and risk her covering her tracks, or play my cards carefully, let her think she was winning, and then take everything back in one brutal move. I chose the latter. The next few days, I acted like the perfect husband. I made her breakfast. I kissed her cheek before work. I told her I loved her. And she smiled back, her eyes glinting with secrets. She thought I was blind. But in reality, I was 3 steps ahead. I went back to my lawyer with the emails, the photos, the financial records. He looked at me, eyes wide. Daniel, with this evidence, not only can you file for divorce on grounds of infidelity, but you can also protect your assets. She won't get a dime she doesn't deserve. It was exactly what I needed to hear. So I waited. The breaking point came on a Friday night. Emily walked in, dressed to perfection, perfume thick in the air. "I'll be late tonight," she said casually, grabbing her purse. "Work dinner." I smiled. "Of course. Have fun." She froze, surprised by my calmness, but quickly covered it. "Thanks, honey." And just like that, she left. Little did she know, it was the last lie she'd ever tell me under this roof. I followed her again. This time, instead of hiding, I walked into the restaurant where she and Alex were laughing over glasses of wine. The moment her eyes met mine, the color drained from her face. "Daniel," she stammered, standing up. "What are you?" I raised my hand, silencing her. "Sit down." The entire restaurant went quiet. Alex shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his confident smirk faltering. I pulled out a thick folder from my coat and dropped it on their table. Bank records, emails, photos. Proof of everything. Emily's mouth fell open. Alex's jaw clenched. "You thought you could lie to me, cheat on me, steal from me, and walk away clean?" My voice was steady, cold. "No, not anymore." Emily reached for my hand, tears brimming. "Daniel, please, it's not what you think. Don't." I snapped, pulling away. "Save the act. You've been pretending to love me for months, but I'm done pretending." Alex leaned forward, trying to regain control. "Listen, man, you don't understand." I turned to him, my eyes burning. "Understand what? That you've been sleeping with my wife while plotting to drain me dry?" "Oh, I understand perfectly." The silence was heavy. The whispers around the restaurant were deafening. Emily crumbled back into her chair, face pale as the truth sank in. She had lost. I walked away that night feeling lighter than I had in months. It wasn't over, not yet, but the mask was gone. Emily's game was finished. The next morning, she tried one last desperate play. She showed up in the kitchen, eyes red, face streaked with tears. "Daniel, please," she whispered. "I made a mistake. I was confused. I don't love him. I love you. I don't want to lose you." Her voice cracked. Her hands shook as she reached for me. But I stepped back. "Emily," I said softly, "you already lost me the moment you chose him." Her tears fell harder. "Can't we fix this? Please. I'll end it. I'll do anything." I shook my head. "No. You ended us the day you lied, the day you pretended, and I won't be your fool anymore." The divorce process began soon after. She fought, Of course she did. She cried in court, painted herself as the victim, begged for sympathy. But the evidence was undeniable. The judge saw through her performance. In the end, she walked away with nothing more than what the law required. No share of my savings. No claim on the house. No power over me. Alex! He vanished as soon as the money dried up, and Emily was left with nothing. No husband, no lover, no future. As for me, it hurt. I won't lie and say I walked away unscarred. The betrayal cut deep, and healing takes time. But I survived. I rebuilt. And I learned the hardest, most valuable lesson of my life. Love isn't about words. It isn't about whispered, I love yous, or fake smiles. Love is about truth, about loyalty, about choosing each other every single day. And Emily, she stopped choosing me a long time ago. I look back now, not with regret, but with clarity. Because her lies, her betrayal, her scheme, none of it destroyed me. It revealed me. It showed me my strength, my resilience, my worth. And that's something no one, not even Emily, can ever take away. Final closing line. She pretended to love me, but in the end, the truth revealed itself. And while she lost everything, I walked away stronger than ever,